Hello, everyone, and welcome to the GM Yearbook. I'm Matt.
And I'm Jim. Those autumn tones are calling us, and we're about to dive into albums celebrating big anniversaries in September. Matt, uh, I know there were a lot of big hitters in the poll this month, but I don't know if there was really that special album for me that had a long-term connection in my life.
I would have to, well, no, there was one really big one that had a big moment in my life, and a lot of other people. Ozzy Osbourne, Blizzard of Oz, celebrating its
Yeah,
45th year. But with the recent passing of Ozzy and the legend he was, we're going to put that aside. And we're going to invite our friend Sandy Williamson on for the next episode. We're going to do a little special tribute to Ozzy, and that album especially. His contribution to not just metal, but to the music world in general. You can't minimize it. So we won't just have it in here for a little 10-minute blurb. We'll give it its
yeah.
full due.
Let's face it, if we had the Ozzy album on this show, it would take up the whole show with Matt just going. So we're gonna
It
give it
would.
its own episode,
Yeah, it would
and
be a
and
crazy
and
train,
Ozzy
man.
deserves it. And if you've ever listened to our audio only shows, Sandy's our metal guru. We had him on the show twice before to discuss metal in general, and also we had him break down the top metal albums of all time. I think Black Sabbath was the top,
Hmm.
so there we go.
Hmm.
I think we should give him another shot at that bracket at some time, and we should do it here on YouTube so that we can actually have the audience see him sweat it out like we did. Because
Yeah.
I think even his opinions would change a little bit back and forth because he was in the wind a couple of times.
Yeah, but it was so anticlimactic because we knew it was going to be Black Sabbath. Maybe I ought to just make
Yeah,
him rank Black Sabbath
Death
albums
albums. Oh yeah.
and see him go between Master of Reality and Paranoid. That one might okay, Sandy, you're
Okay.
put on notice here, maybe.
All right,
All
let's
right,
get rolling then.
yeah, let's go. We'll start up in the year 2000 without the drive-in relationship
Yeah,
of command.
our September anniversaries. Yeah, 2000. At the drive-in, I really didn't know much about this band at the time. I may have heard somebody say their name, but it wasn't really any kind of music that was on my radar. And we have been diving into a lot of post punk and emo lately. This album's considered to be, I would even say post hardcore. This album's considered to be one of the most influential of the modern generation. I'll call that people born kind of after 1992, 395, somewhere in there, and discovering music in the 2000s. From the album, I like the music a lot. I think if I were filled with a lot of teen angst, like the people who enjoyed this album were when they were listening to it, it really would have satisfied my angry itch.
Yeah.
Uh, I think that I found a way to explain my difficulties with emo and why it doesn't work for me. Plain and simple, I enjoy good singing. I rarely make exceptions, and we can talk about the Smashing Pumpkins another time. you
Okay,
know,
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
for
yeah.
vocals.
It's not, oh, come on.
Yeah, at least
Yeah,
he's trying to
okay.
sing in
Let's just
key.
go.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
My part is saying that a lot of the vocals in emo don't stay in key. In fact, it's intentionally out of key
Hmm.
and flat most of the time. And to me, vocals are just as much a part of the aesthetic of a song as any instrument that's in it. So, could you imagine if a guitar player or a bass player left their instrument completely out of tune, but just plowed through a song, playing it, playing the same chords that it was written with the whole time? Uh, it would sound like shit. And this is the best way that I can describe my issues with emo fairly. Um, don't always dislike the music. Relationship of Command has some really phenomenal musical
Yes.
moments, and I did like that angry music. And I think sometimes you need that on a certain day, and I did the
Hmm.
day I listened to it, so I'm thankful for that. To be fair, I think I could hear the Fugazi influence on
Okay.
this, which was kind of cool. But I just wish that a band could come along with music that sounded like this, that also had really good singing at the same time.
Yeah, we're definitely in the same boat. We've had many conversations over that. The vocals are key, and we both know why that is that way in emo. It's that emotional outpouring. If
Yeah.
you've ever screamed out in anger or
Mhm.
sadness, your voice kind of shakes. So we get it. I listen to a ton of music with screaming or yelling, but there is something special with emo that just makes me go, oh, oh no, don't do that. Right. But, and I too, I like singers with unconventional voices,
Mhm.
not Bob Dylan though. Yeah. The music's really good, but the voice just doesn't fit it.
Probably a better example than Billy Corgan there. You got that.
Yeah. And I
Yeah.
would call Johnny Cash an unconventional voice as well,
Yeah, yeah,
but I
yeah.
wouldn't call him a bad singer.
Hmm.
I feel I like the music if it's screaming to be a little bit more lo-fi sounding
Okay.
because it kind of it fits the tone, right? If you're gonna be
Hmm.
belting out that, then maybe pull back on the production sheen of the music. It just feels more natural, more tone fit. If everything is raw, I just think it would come off a little bit better. And another big part of it is and it's like this with metal, or I just don't need metal or aggressive music anymore in my life. Or if I do, it's just in really small doses.
Hmm.
Back then, I really didn't dig on it either because again, I just wasn't in that spot in my life where I needed anger and aggressive. If I was a teenager, I would probably really relate to it, right? What teenager doesn't go through angst and anger? I've been trying to wrap my head around Mars Volta lately.
Okay.
Coincidence, because I was never really a fan. I remember hearing them straight off, and I'm like, nah, they just, it is kind of emo-ish at, their
Hmm.
earlier stuff. Again, back to the singing. But I heard their new album, and I'm like, wow, this is a lot different than I really remember Mars Volta being. So I kind of went back to some of their earlier stuff and dug a little bit. And then I read that Mars Volta came from At the Drive-In. And I
Yeah.
was like, oh, it's kind of cool how some of non-show listening lines up with show listening.
Hmm.
And for relationship, what is it called?
Of command. Yeah. Relationship of.
Relationship of command.
Yep.
There's a spot in the middle that definitely grabbed my attention. And forgive me if I don't pronounce this right. Enfilade or Enfilade, Rolodex propaganda, quarantine,
Quarantine.
cosmonaut.
Yeah. Yeah.
Enfilade had
Hmm.
such a much needed change of pace that it gave my ears a rest. And it kind of opened up the rest of the album for me. It made me look forward to going back to the beginning and giving it another go. And it
Okay.
not necessarily got better, but I had a bright spot. And that's, what else could I hope for, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
Cool. Well, hey, thanks for voting for that. It was still great to get
Yeah.
a chance to listen to it because now
Yep.
we're not ignorant about that album and at the drive-in anymore.
Not at all. Not at all.
Yeah. The next one,
Oh, 1995,
1995. Yeah.
my
The
favorite
Red Hot
band of all
Chili
time.
Peppers, One Hot Minute. This is a very divisive Radiohead album. And let's face it,
Radiohead or Red
I'm
Hot
sorry,
Chili
Red
Peppers?
Hot, sorry. This is a very divisive Red Hot Chili Peppers album. Let's face it, it gets a lot of shit. It followed up the mega successful Blood Sugar Sex Magic. And what are you going to do? It featured Dave Navarro from Jane's Addiction after John Frusciante had left the band due to having a lot of personal demons. The popular opinion is that it didn't work. Going back and listening to it this past week a couple of times, I don't really know if that's true. If and I agree with that. They didn't need to remake Blood Sugar Sex Magic again, did they really? Is that what people wanted? I think this album has some great changes in direction and sound. I I didn't expect to like it when I had it on for the first time. I thought I was just going to listen to it and be kind of worn out on it and put it away. But also, it's one of those albums I haven't pulled out probably since 1995, 96 and put on and
Yes,
listened to. And
100%.
with fresh ears, I found that it had a lot of good ear candy and music things going on that I really liked. Flea's bass on Walkabout was a highlight for me. It's tasty and smooth. Warped is such a cool
Mm.
original alternative rock song with its own sound aesthetic. It's just really great. And I think Aeroplane was a victim of radio airplay and it has a really shitty music video. Back in
Yeah.
that day, music videos did make or break songs, and this album, I think they're all kind of it was like what do they call it when they dance in water, and
Oh, the synchronized
The synchronized swimming
swimming
stuff,
or
but
whatever. Yeah,
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 people
yeah, yeah, yeah,
falling
yeah.
in the water and back, and it just didn't make any sense, and it wasn't very good. But it's a funky, fun song. It's a danceable rock song, and the Dave Navarro guitar solo in that to me really stands out as a great Red Hot Chili Peppers moment.
Well, yeah, Navarro's a damn good guitarist, but
Mhm.
yeah, Jim, once a band makes an album like Blood, Sugar, Sex, Magic, they're expected to reproduce that one thing forever until the worm turns and people start hating on them, right? And there's what, a
Yeah.
5 year gap in between those two albums. So it is kind of unfair for them to be expected to reproduce that.
Hmm.
I cringed when I saw this on the poll because I'm like, God dang, how many? I'm just gonna come on here and spew the same thing over and over about Red Hot Chili Peppers, right? I get people love them, and I'm not saying One Hot Minute doesn't have its charms. It does. You're right. Warped. Love that song. That is great. 100% about Aeroplane. Way too much Aeroplay. It just got friggin' hammered.
Hmm.
My friends can also just go. Get
That's why
on
I
the
didn't mention
bus. Get on the
it.
bus. Get out of town. I've heard you way too much. Coffee shop is weird enough for me to really get down on it.
Yeah, it's a cool song.
But in One Big Mob, it's got early shades of early Peps, but they lose the plot after the first minute and they just kind of just get weird and they get it back for the last two, which makes you realize that freaking songs have got way too long.
Yeah,
And
that's it.
45 seconds of that crescendo buildup. It's like, dude, get to the. That's their problem. They can't get to the point.
Okay,
Get
yeah.
it. 13 songs,
Hmm.
more than an hour long. I don't need that from 99% of the albums that I listen to. I listened to Def Leppard Hysteria recently. They lose the plot 2/3 of the way album in. Take 4 to 5 songs off that album. That Hysteria rivals Pyromania without a
Uh-huh.
doubt. Man,
But these albums, the Chili Peppers like to make long albums.
yeah, and do they want to be prog? Prog fuck funk? What what is their
These
issue?
these are guys who don't throw anything out. They just don't go.
They
They,
can't. If
yeah.
God forbid one, a tragedy were to befall, the band or a member of the band, they would have nothing in the vault to
Well,
release.
that's the funny thing when they do reissues of older albums and things like that. I've never seen a unreleased Red Hot Chili Peppers track from such and
No,
such
no,
time.
they'd have to put a bunch of bullshit live stuff on there.
I mean, we get Nirvana songs, or we've had over the years, or Beatles songs, or there's probably Pearl Jam that could still come out. It wouldn't
Yeah,
surprise me.
yeah,
But I think the Red Hot Chili Peppers are just like, yeah, that's good. Let's 18 songs. Let's lay them all down on the album.
yeah,
How many did this one
and
have? This is
hey,
13, but
you love the Peppers, God bless you. And I would love them too if they could just take their albums, cut them down to 40 minutes, cut
yeah.
out the BS.
Mhm.
Man, you crank some of these songs in and under like 3.5, 4.5 minutes. Dang, they'd be bangers. They would
And
be great.
I'm with you on my friends. Not that I think that it's a bad song. I think it was like kind of a blatant attempt to capture that under the bridge magic all over
Okay,
again.
yeah, it is
Uh,
catchy. It's a catchy
yeah,
tune.
but I'll admit that those songs that you don't like and how that works for you. Yeah, but the funny thing is, I will admit it. If I'm driving down the road in a car and the song comes on,
Boop.
I might, no, yeah, I'll sing along. It's a sing along song. It's in a good key. You can sing to it.
Yeah,
So, I'll pop that on because it's just something that's easy
yeah.
to sing
Okay.
to,
In listening to this album, I'll be lying if I say I wasn't singing along to Aeroplane the first like minute and a half.
but
You
it's not much of a stretch to sing along with anything Anthony
Yeah.
Kiedis sings anyway.
Yeah, yeah,
You
yeah,
know?
yeah, yeah. Hey, Tony's got his charms.
Well, let's talk
Okay.
about somebody that can sing next.
Oh yeah, 1990, George Michael. Listen without prejudice.
Yeah, say what you want about George Michael. He's a god over here in the UK.
Oh, good,
He just has
good.
that legendary status. I know his music isn't for everyone, and I don't disrespect that. Uh, I do get that the real narrative of this album was that he was finally making music that he wanted and not letting the pressure of a label or at this point, any rumors that were out there that he was a gay man dictate the kind of music that he was going to make.
Yeah, and count me among those people that were dismissive of him. There's that vicious cycle of building people up and then tearing them down when you get so tired of hearing them. Started sounding like Randy Macho Man Savage there for a sec. Jeez. We're not the only ones that are, prone to fatigue. It's like
Mhm.
the media or whatever, it's so ever present in your life. It's like, I'm tired of hearing about this person. Just stop. And then you, instead of taking it out on the people that are forcing it in your face, you take it out on the person who is the subject of it. Pop stars are huge targets for this with me. And I don't know how widespread the tearing down of him was in 1990. The whole public lewdness arrest was in
That was after. That
that
came
was well
after.
after. That was in
Yeah.
1998. And then to see
Yeah.
people really started piling on. Um,
Hmm.
it kind of had this "I told you so" feeling. It's like,
Hmm.
screw you. You try being a public figure the way he was, or anybody is, and having
Hmm.
people tug and pull on you this way, that way, and not just in your personal life, but in your business life.
Hmm.
Um, you gotta give these people a little bit of grace and maybe a little bit of privacy. And some people that are in the spotlight need to realize when it's time to pull back from themselves from the spotlight.
Hmm.
He was having problems
Yeah.
and he just was not receiving any grace.
I can absolutely say without a doubt, though, that in the world where a song comes out and it lives forever, Freedom 90 is one of those eternal songs.
I hope so. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's always going to find an audience. Well, I didn't do this in preparation for the show, but I've done it in the past. So go check out Freedom, the song off the Wham album someday,
Oh, yep.
and then compare it. Yeah, and then go listen to Freedom 90. And George Michael was always trying to tell people who he was in his music. And it's in retrospect, when you go back and you listen to these songs, you know that while they all sound cheery and poppy and happy, there was a big struggle that he was having with having to present himself as a male sex symbol that
Mhm.
was supposed to be, dating all of these women. The Freedom 90 music video. Come on, how old were we when that came out?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we were at the
Yeah.
prime age
Yeah.
to put that thing on repeat if we could, or
Yeah.
get the VCR on, put a
Yeah.
tape in. And I'm recording
Jim
this
getting the
because,
sock ready.
yeah, yeah. Cindy Crawford in the bathtub,
Oh,
Naomi Campbell
Jesus.
dancing
Here we go.
around.
Here we go. Hey,
Yeah.
cut it out, man.
But come on, at that age and at that
Yeah.
time, it
But
was.
even at that time, even he was being, put as that sex symbol or whatever. Didn't you always have that kind of feeling?
I think so, but what a
Right?
great way to make all of that ironic by
Yes.
having a music video with the most beautiful women in the world, the top
Mhm.
models for Victoria's Secret or for anything else, Guess Jeans, anything else out there. They were all stars of this music video, and he wouldn't have had any interest in any of them.
No, but
And
and it's really powerful though when
but that was the
pop
freedom.
music.
Yeah,
Yes.
but that was that whole point of freedom.
Yeah.
Like he could put that on there and he wasn't doing it to be exploitive of those women by
No.
any means.
No, no. And that is when pop can be at its best,
Yeah.
when it can uh, formulate its lyrics where it can be taken this way, that way.
Mhm.
It's all based on the listener's perspective. They can
Yep.
take it the way they need it, want it, whatever. But when pop music can make a statement without sounding like it's making a statement, then pop music's a-okay. The
It is.
music may suck, but lyrically, whatever.
Put the sock away.
Put the sock away, Jim. Shane, do not cut that out. Leave that in.
Definitely leave that in.
Yeah, yeah. I respected the way, he was telling the record company, hey, screw off. This is the music I want to make. He wanted to be seen as a serious artist. I don't know if I don't think the public could really let go of him being, a pop star. It's too bad because Freedom is a great song.
Yeah.
he didn't create one of the greatest albums of all time, in my opinion. It dips into 90s R&B a little too much for
Hmm.
me, but there's a few good songs in here. Praying for Time,
It's a great
Dude,
song. Yeah, I love that
They
song
Won't
myself.
Go When
Sorry.
I Go, and what should have been a bigger hit, Waiting for That Day. I
Hmm.
actually kind of fell in love with that song the other day. Like, God dang, this is really, why wasn't this a hit? This
Hmm.
it's not Freedom, but it's kind of got to say a similar vibe to it, rhythm
Yep.
wise, drum beat wise, and he had to give songwriting credit on Waiting for That Day to Jagger and Mick Jagger
Mick
and Keith
Jagger,
Richards
Keith Richards.
because he felt it was a little too close to, you can't always get what you want. So I don't know if maybe after we recorded said, "Oh, dang. It's just because he even sings the line. Whoops, sorry, I hit my camera there." Because he even sings the line at the very end of the song. So I don't know, maybe,
He felt
after the
that.
fact he felt
Yeah.
like, "Oh, while I'm doing this,
Hmm.
I'll just put it in there." Hey, you know,
Good
maybe
for him
the
for doing that.
maybe the Verve should have taken, a cue and not
Yeah, they
tried to
should have.
just get it over with.
All right. Well, from going from one uh, type of pop music and dude in this world to this other group of
This
dudes.
other group of dudes.
Like if we're gonna do an exact
Yep.
reverse or
You know
flip
what's
side,
great? You know what's really hard about doing this show is coming up with segues.
it is, yeah, from one album to the next, making sure that we don't sound
Yeah,
inappropriate
it,
doing
it's
it
almost kind of
sometimes.
like we go almost like chronologically, and then
Hmm.
there's no way to go segue from George Michael to the other 1990 album, AC/DC's The Razor's Edge.
And
How do
we
you
never,
how do you make that
yeah,
segue?
yeah. Thank you. Great, great. That's how
Hey,
you
I
do it.
did it for us, Jim.
Yes, and we never have it in our notes saying, "Okay, Matt, you call the next one. I'll call this one." The album name is just there, and then we have our
Yep.
individual notes about
Yep.
it. But that's how it comes to the show. And yeah, good
Yeah.
segue there for us. Thank you. The Razor's Edge AC/DC 1990. I'd never listened to the entire album. It was not on my radar in 1990. I was not listening to AC/DC at that time, and I enjoyed it a lot until I kind of got towards maybe the second or the last third of the album. I kind of got what I would call AC/DC fatigue,
Yep.
where you're just kind of hearing a little too much of the same old, same old. But not knowing too much about that album, I immediately noticed the drums, and I was like, "Oh, these drums sound good. They sound different." Because we've done Back in Black recently as well. We talked about that, and I noticed some of the hits, and when I say some of the hits, I mean some of the hits on the drum kit. And so I went and looked it up and discovered, yeah, they had a new drummer for this album, and I was proud of myself for recognizing that and
Yeah.
listening to it. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. They did have a revolving door of drummers for a little while there.
and I've got to be honest, I didn't give Angus enough credit in really kind of in general through his career of playing guitar because his solos in this are awesome and his tone is incredible.
Um, yeah, Angus is awesome. No doubt. But I don't know if you didn't give him enough credit. Maybe you just took him for granted, because
Mm.
he's been there for all our lives, essentially, killing it, absolutely killing it on the
And
guitar.
and how many bands have I seen cover
Oh,
AC/DC and play those leads too?
yeah.
So I might know a cover band's version of it better because I saw them play it 3 times now,
Yeah. Oh, exactly.
at the
So,
Del Bar.
yeah, oh, the Del Bar, long live the Del.
Yes. I'll drink Bud to that.
Hey, hey, yeah. So, Jim, why don't we explain to
Yeah.
people why you're drinking Budweiser?
Because the Oakland Raiders beat the New England Patriots in their
Huzzah!
season opener, and I lost the bet, so I have to drink Budweiser on the show tonight.
When I was thinking about it today, I'm like, we should have bet a dance.
No, I'm not dancing
Yeah,
with you.
no, you're in Scotland. I'm in Vermont. That dance, that bet payoff wouldn't be for another 5 years at least. Okay, all right.
Back on track.
So back on track. AC/DC obviously peaked with Back in Black. Gold standard album for them. It's perfect. For Those About to Rock was a good follow up, and that album might get more credit than it deserves. Actually, For Those About to Rock, great song, right?
Hmm. Yep, yep.
And if this had been there, if For Those About to Rock, we salute you. If that had been the first record after Bon Scott's death, I don't know if the band would be held up in the same stature.
No, probably not.
It's uneven.
Hmm.
But those two albums, Back in Black, for those who better, they had Mutt Lang producing. They sound so freaking good.
Hmm.
You know, even if I think For Those About to Rock is an uneven album, it still just sounds perfect. So they part ways with Mutt. They do Flick of the Switch, Fly on the Wall, different producers, and that's where the first thing you realize, well, these don't really sound that good. So it makes you pay attention more to the songs. You're like, well, these songs aren't really that great either. There's a few songs on there I love: Shake Your Foundation, Sink the Pink, Playing with Girls, but they're very uneven. Probably if you put them on a balance, where good is here, bad is here, it's a little bit more like this, right? Uneven. That's what I mean. I'm
Ladies
trying
and
to be
gentlemen,
nice.
ladies and gentlemen, the history of AC/DC
Yeah.
as we work our way
Yeah.
up to the razor's
Yep.
edge.
We're getting there. We're getting there. So then
Okay.
Who Made Who comes out, but that's mostly a compilation of Who Made Who's a great song. Blow Up Your Video is really kind of their comeback commercially,
That was
uh,
big. Yeah. Yep.
buoyed by, Who Made Who. I kind of think they're set up some anticipation for their next album. Still not great album, great songs on there. And then Razor's Edge was probably their last good album.
Okay.
Probably,
Yeah.
probably
Yeah.
the one that made the most noise culturally.
Hmm.
And ever since, there's been a point where every new album it's like received well. It's like, oh, AC/DC's got a great new album. Oh, the Rolling Stones have a great new album. And then like the interest is like,
Yeah.
it's like,
Yeah.
what do you say? Oh, good for you guys. Thanks for participating.
You
Giving
still
them a
got it.
great, you're not giving them a
Yeah.
great album, but the album sold well, tours go well because who isn't going to want to go see AC/DC? They're
Yeah. Yeah.
successful, but older bands aren't cool in a meaningful way to younger audiences, I don't think.
No. You're talking about producing though. Bruce Fairbairn did produce Razor's
Mm,
Edge, and we've definitely enjoyed a lot of his work. I think he was just coming off Aerosmith's Pump before this,
hmm.
and maybe the year
Sounds
before
about
that,
right.
yeah, he'd worked with Bon Jovi on New Jersey, either New
Yes, because
Jersey or
did
yeah,
Desmond Child produce
Slippery
or
When Wet.
or did Mutt Lang?
I don't
No, it
know.
wasn't Mutt.
Well, Bruce Fairbairn definitely was in
Yeah,
one
yeah,
of those.
yeah,
But I could hear that influence on kind of the backing vocals on Razor's Edge, where you don't
yes,
hear that in the other albums and the earlier stuff.
yep,
It was more commercial sounding with that aesthetic of the full sound of the background vocal as compared to what you get off of
hmm,
the earlier albums. But yeah, that's it. I found it a little bit more commercial than
yeah.
the previous stuff, and
Oh, 100%. They just needed, and a lot of bands need this. So they just need the
mhm,
right producer at the right time to capture their sound.
mhm.
Mutt was the absolute best for them. And Bruce Fairbairn, I would put him right up there with Mutt as far as like capturing their sound. This album
Yeah,
does
it
sound
does. Yeah.
alive.
Hmm.
I will never hate on the way Bruce Fairbairn makes a band sound, right? He's just great ear. I mean, Rick Rubin produced one of their albums, uh, Ball Breaker. And no doubt that Rubin is like the producer of our generation,
Hmm.
probably. I mean, he's got to be on the list, but he just didn't capture the sound the way Fairbairn or Mutt did. Uh, you know, so all of this is because I'm trying to paint a picture. I just kind of devolving into a rant. Uh, AC/DC has more than enough great songs, even just with Brian Johnson for a triple, quadruple album. They have great songs. The picture is that in the reality, AC/DC just makes okay albums, and most have
Hmm.
really high spots. Take Razor's Edge, for instance. Finally, right, Jim? Maybe I'm going to get to a point here.
Yeah. What are we doing?
Uh, give them credit because AC/DC does know how to kick off an album. Thunderstruck,
Fuck yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
absolute banger. I don't think
Hmm.
I've ever gone more than a few months without hearing the song in public, not just me playing it.
And that's a song that'll live forever.
Oh,
It's a
forever.
stadium song for sports.
Evergreen. Yep.
Yep.
That is never going away. Fire Your Guns, great energy. It's really
Mhm.
amped up. And Brian Johnson, this album, he's in peak form. He's given a great performance on this whole album. He is just, and part of it's probably the way Bruce Fairbairn is capturing his voice.
Hmm.
Money Talks is a very different AC/DC song. There's a guitar lick that mimics the vocal melody. And as you were kind of saying before, the chorus, they're still doing their gang vocals, but there is almost like a harmony
Yeah.
structure to
Yeah.
it. It's very catchy. It's
Hmm.
cohesive, and dare I say, it might have a little bit of pop sensibility
It does.
in that way.
Yep.
The title track is very different too. Razor's Edge. It starts. It's a very atypical AC/DC guitar intro. It's ominous. It's dramatic. Maybe even a little threatening. I really dig that song. Then the album hits the biggest speed bump of all time with Mistress for Christmas. It's not necessarily a Christmas song, right? But the intro and outro mumblings, it's just like bad drunk dad jokes. It's very cringe. Very, very
Hmm.
cringe. I hated it in 1990 and it's only gotten worse. And in listening to this album, I realized after pretty much the Razor's Edge song, I probably stopped listening to the rest of this album in every consequential listen.
It
Um,
explains my fatigue.
oh, 100%.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's only then that I realized the rest of this album is one rock cliche after the next. Rock your heart out, got you by the balls. That's when I started going back to their other albums, right? And it just could be my midlife disenchantment with bands like this. Some
Hmm.
musical heroes that I held in really high regard have mostly been a midlife band experiencing erectile dysfunction in the maybe this is why I don't pay attention to lyrical content because of this disappointment. Maybe if I just go by the vibe of the music, I'll be happier, because they start all hot and hard, right? Those first few
Yeah.
songs are great,
Yep.
but then
Yep.
after those, they're starting to say, "Sorry, this has never happened
Yeah.
to me before," right? And we're sitting there going, "Oh, sure, sure,
They
I'm
they
so
blew their load all at the start of the album. Is that what you're
Yeah,
saying?
they did. They did. Hey, but sh- and part of that is on me. A band is not going to reproduce. Hey, no, 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 not like that. A band is not going to reproduce Back in
I
Black
don't want to know how
over
you're
and
listening
over.
to AC/DC.
Oh my God, I feel like I need to take a shower, Jim. I need a face shield every time I listen to AC/DC now.
I thought you said facial.
Face shield. Sorry, it's my
Yeah,
mumble mouth.
be careful.
All right, enough of my rant on
Yeah,
AC/DC.
we
Let's move on to
digress.
the next one.
Yes. Let's go to 1975 and yeah, classic album Pink Floyd, Wish You Were Here. We can't make jokes about this one. This is a serious album. It's
Well,
so well, not yeah.
no.
It's so good. This album I think with the other Pink album, with the other Pink Floyd albums around it, you have Animals that came before it. You've got uh, The Wall coming up. You've got Dark Side kind of kicking in there as well. This one wasn't a concept album, which is rare for Pink Floyd. And I think that's one of the things I really like it when I'm listening to it because I don't have to attach myself to any of the songs for anything other than the moment that you're in it. But it's crazy that it's an album that's 44 minutes long and only has 5 songs, but it sounds so much fuller than that when you put it on. Shine On You Crazy Diamond and Welcome to the Machine. You can feel like they're starting to get long-winded at times, but there's always moments in them where the song pays off. And it's worth getting to that next part.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, couldn't agree more. Pink Floyd's one of the rare bands that I can take those long, drawn out songs for because they travel, right? They settle into that groove and then all of a sudden, whoa, they change it up, right? Shine on
Hmm.
You Crazy Diamonds, parts 1 through 4 on the first side, right? They play out like one of your favorite scenes in one of your favorite movies, right?
Yeah.
It tells a story. It makes you feel things. It's a heavy song. There's feelings of longing, there's tension, there's sadness over what it could have been. You know, it's an elegy of paying tribute to Sid Barrett's creative energy, but
Hmm.
there are also you can feel the mourning that he's not there anymore.
Hmm.
And in that regards, I'll kind of disagree with you a little bit that Wish You Were Here might be a concept album in that it is about Sid
It is,
and
yeah, that's
about the
right.
band's
Hmm.
relationship
Hmm.
status.
Hmm.
Because there's more than one song that deals with that on this album.
Yeah, yeah.
There's
Um,
personal relationships.
since it's only got 5 songs, we're going to mention all of them. Have a cigar. That's one of my favorite Pink Floyd
Mm.
tunes. Love it. If you ever get a chance to check out Primus playing it, they do a
Oh,
great job.
that's killer.
Yeah, it's a great cover,
Yeah, it
but such
is.
a good song. But what's funny is this week I kind of noticed it had that 70s porn funk thing going on.
Wow, we can't escape that
No,
talk today.
no, I
Well,
guess
I
not.
guess
But
Jim, you get what you're looking for.
yeah, I
You know,
guess so.
maybe it's more like sci-fi porn,
But yeah,
70s
you're
sci-fi
you're
porn.
you're right about it, the album being written for Sid Barrett. I think one of the cool stories in the making of the album is that Sid stopped by the studio while they were making it. I think it was at Abbey
I
Road
remember hearing
where
that.
where
Yeah.
they recorded it, and they were just really nice to him, even though Sid had had his bad drug experiences and he was kind of in a place in his mind where he wasn't able to be super sociable with anybody anymore. He came by the studio and maybe still thought he was part of the band, and they didn't tell him he wasn't. And they let him come in and he sat behind the mixing board and he twisted some knobs and they would let him feel like he was participating and then he'd go on his way. And I don't know
Awkward.
if I
Yeah.
could think, yeah, but no, but I think to me, when you're in a band with some guys that, because I've got this with the guys I was with Cinderblock Baby with, you got that kind of brotherly love thing for.
Hmm.
So you're gonna let them come in, you're gonna let them do that because regardless of the time that it's interrupting or what you're trying to produce at that time, you've got so much love for that individual and what he meant to you as a friend. He must have been such a cool guy for them to
Oh
have that
yeah.
that time and patience for him because I don't hear
Yeah.
much about who he was other than, hearing some of the early music and then knowing that, he had the really bad experience with drugs that destroyed his mind. But yeah, Wish You Were Here. It's their love song to him. It's their tribute. And you couldn't get it much better than that.
And I'm sure that there was a degree of concern with if they would have broached that. So, dude, you're not part of the band anymore.
Hmm.
There was probably a concern for his well-being if they were to
Yeah.
have that
Yep.
conversation.
Yep.
He may not have
Yep.
been in the state of mind to receive that constructively. So, it's probably I hate to say it, maybe a little bit of an act of kindness to be that way.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, Wish You Were Here. It's one of my favorite Floyd tunes.
Hmm.
It sounds like it would fit on Animals because that
Yeah.
is my favorite Floyd album, and that's probably why I kind of get that vibe from it.
Hmm.
It is definitely my sweet spot for their sound. Wish You Were Here. It plays out better on vinyl. Crazy Diamond 1 through 4, epic, love it. Welcome to the Machine. Those two fit really great together on side one. But
Hmm.
if I'm listening to this album on a streaming service and I don't have that gap and Have a Cigar comes on, it's emotional whiplash. There's just it's like, oh man, you just are turning my emotions too far in one direction after the other. Have a Cigar and Wish You Were Here, a great 1-2 punch. I will
Hmm.
say on side two. They belong together for me.
Yeah. Great album to have on for the poll this week. And to bring onto the show, thank you everybody for
Thank
those
you.
5 albums. We are done. And it
Sorry
is
for
time
ranting about some of
to
your
now
choices.
it's now time for us to talk about our choices. And I'll go first. Is that cool?
Yeah, go. Go,
All
go, go.
right. So I couldn't let Kenny Rogers' greatest hits not be spoken about on this show. And I talked about not having attachments to albums. And I think this is difficult to call this an album, but this is the one time we're going to take a compilation, at least for now. Maybe we'll come across another one someday, but that I'm going to bring and pick as an album for the show from 1980. It's soaked in nostalgia for me. One of the cool parts about this album is still today the biggest selling compilation of all time. It was on both the top of the pop and country charts in its day. Lady, the big massive song from the album written by Lionel Richie, probably helped this because the song was featured on that album as a new song. and it was a massive number one hit for weeks in the United States, crossed over as well. I wouldn't be able to handle the UK version of this album because they excluded Ruby, Don't Take Your Love to Town, and Reuben
Oh,
James.
that's a crime.
Yeah, those two songs are they're part of the makeup of the best of that album. And I didn't put it in the notes, but I have to go on and say that if I'm gonna do some cooking on a Sunday afternoon and put on country music, I'm gonna sing along to Coward of the County in my kitchen. I love that song. I love the story. I love being all dramatic. You could have heard a pin drop when Tommy stopped and locked the door. It's awesome. I don't think I'm the only one who's nostalgic about Kenny Rogers, though.
No, 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 no.
I've met and made friends with plenty of rockers out there who would happily come on this show and do a sing along to Kenny if we had that opportunity for them. We could probably do a Jam Yearbook sings along with Kenny Rogers
Oh,
episode.
Jam
And
Yearbook karaoke.
yeah, he had that voice that was as recognizable as Sinatra, Elvis, Willie. You can just say Kenny and people will know who he's talking about. When I'm doing that cooking on a Sunday afternoon, I can get a little choked up from time to time because this album was massive to my father and he listened to it a lot around the house. Uh, yeah, I put this on, and because of my dad playing it so much, I know every word to every single song on the album. But the ballads get me too. The song You Decorated My Life
Oh,
was the song that I watched my parents dance to on their 20th anniversary. So like I said, soaked in nostalgia. I've got a lot of love for this greatest hits compilation, and it's something that will always be with me for the rest of my life.
oh yeah. This is one of the greatest hits collections of all times. It's great. You know, great songs and nostalgia. That's a one-two punch right there. And one thing we kind of were talking about, or chatting about the other day, was the songwriting. That was a big surprise for me because I had always assumed that he was big into songwriting, but you look at the
Uh,
songwriting credits on this, and it's like, no, but it goes to show you the strength of what Kenny Rogers had to offer. First,
mhm.
amazing voice,
Yeah,
right? But the ability to take somebody else's songs, interpret it into a way that is your style. You
yeah,
made these forever Kenny Rogers
mhm.
songs.
They
That's
are.
talent.
They're
Love Kenny. Great album.
All right, Matt, I've seen your notes for this next one. Don't drag us out as long as you did AC/DC. Okay?
Megadeth. Rest in
Yeah.
peace. Deja Vu and Discovery right here. This album feels this album to me it cemented Megadeth's identity, right? It's fast and
Mhm.
technical, but there's also still the raw anger, there's paranoia. There have been decades of metal evolution since Rust in Peace came out, yet this is still a breath of fresh air. What stood out first is the musicianship. Bringing Marty Friedman in
Yeah.
was, oh my God, it changed the band. And the
Hmm.
band was probably, right for that kind of change. They got a few albums under their belts now. It's usually when, change starts happening. And the drummer they got, Nick Menza, he came in. There's still power, but there's finesse in what he's doing. His dad was a
Hmm.
jazz musician.
Okay.
He played with Buddy Rich. He played saxophone, and he was part of the Tonight Show band in the
Oh,
'70s.
wow.
Yeah, it was really interesting reading up on it. And modern metal bands that I've been trying to listen to and trying to like, there's so much polish on them now, and some of them just like immediately just down tune.
Hmm.
Rust in Peace sounds so much more original, alive, organic, and chaotic,
Yeah.
but there's still precision there that the modern bands just don't seem to be able to capture that. The modern metal, ton of precision, but they lose the feeling and the danger and the chaos. You know,
Hmm.
you got to have craftsmanship, but you got to have soul. And metal's
Yep.
kind of lost its soul to me. There's no point in pushing the boundaries of speed if that's all you do. How many videos have you seen on YouTube of guitarists trying to see how fast they can play Flight of the Bumblebee or no, oh
Yeah.
man, put some in there.
Hmm.
Hangar 18, Holy Wars, they're they're still complex,
Yeah.
right? But
Yeah. They
they're
sound amazing.
right, but it's not just about speed. They're like mini suites in Hangar
Hmm.
18. I didn't never noticed it back in the day, but I'm like, dun, 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 dun. Oh, wait a second. They're taking a little bit of a riff
Yep.
on Parasite by
Yep.
Kiss
Yep.
there. I finally picked up on it after all these years. Modern metal can be heavier, louder, more technically complex, but few records sound like this now. You
Hmm.
know, the tension on here is what makes Rust in Peace timeless. People want to say, oh, Metallica, Megadeth. It doesn't matter. Love them both.
Yeah, they both
Love them
fit.
both,
Hmm.
right? If you
Yep.
really
Yep.
listen to Rust in Peace now, you can see that Megadeth is already searching for more commercial viability in how these songs are. And it's a year before the Metallica Black album,
Hmm.
right?
Yep. Yep.
And the next album was Countdown to Extinction, which was a commercial success for them. So stop with the whole Megadeth Metallica. Love them both because they're both amazing.
I really enjoyed it. This is my first time listening to this album. We did listen to Peace Cells back in the day
Yes.
for 1986. So, but yeah, I thought this was great. And you're right about Friedman. Those guitar solos are
Mm,
incredible. I don't know how respectable Consequence of Sound is. It's a place where sometimes I'll go read a music article from time to time. Somebody might not like their opinion, but when I looked up their standing amongst metal albums, there were 100 thrash metal albums that were rated on this page that I looked at, and number five was this album of all
yeah.
time. Yeah.
This album, I'm surprised it just keeps getting better.
And you talk about the breakdowns and the complexity. What I really like about it is I have a difficult time with modern metal with every being so zeroed in on double bass drums,
Oh,
driving the song from beginning to end. Sometimes I think I've said to you, metal to me is like being on a runaway train that's never stopping, and I
100%.
get I get a little anxious. But these guys, you're right, they break their music up in suites. They make it sound that there's different parts and sections. It makes it very interesting to listen to, and I really like the dynamic between the riffs and the drums instead of just having that driving double bass where
Yeah.
you'll get a dun 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 dun,
Yeah.
and it just I sound
There's
like
an
Beavis doing that,
interplay.
but
Yeah.
dun 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 dun. You can't help but sound like Beavis if you're gonna talk
Yeah.
Megadeth,
Yeah.
but but yeah, good stuff,
Yeah.
good stuff. I'm glad you picked it. Thank you, because I'm glad I had the chance to listen to it.
Awesome. So
Yeah,
that wraps up. We've had the five albums and we've each had ours. So do we
yeah.
need to recap all the losers or do we
Well,
need
we
to
can just we
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 need
can
to
just
go
run
on?
through them. We had Prince, the Gold Experience, because I just want to say "Pussy Control" because that
Okay.
was a
I
song
get
on
you.
it.
I get you.
You had
Yep.
Mariah Carey's "Daydream." Thank you for not that.
Thank you. Thank
Lisa
you. Thank
Loeb.
you for not
Yeah,
Lisa Loeb.
yeah. Vanilla Ice to the Extreme. This is an album that I've never listened to.
I call bullshit on that one right there.
Well, Warrant Cherry Pie, which was a big album in your time in 1990.
I'm
Yeah.
not gonna lie, I almost like prepared like my whole Megadeth thing and just said, no, screw Jim. I'm gonna go right into
You're gonna go to
Warrant's
Cherry
Cherry
Pie.
Pie.
Yeah. I Saw Red was one of my favorite, hair metal
Yeah,
ballads at that
yeah,
time.
yep, yep. I like
NXS X.
mm,
This is when I tell the story of the first concert I ever went to with you and Mark. This was the
yeah,
tour.
yep,
So yeah, we had Stevie Wonder in Square Circle, Tom Waits, Rain Dogs, which is a classic album.
yes.
And if you want to know if you only know of Rod Stewart singing the song Downtown Train in the 1980s, go listen to Tom Waits sing his own song. His version is so much better than Rod Stewart
Yep.
singing it.
You just got to get past the voice. You got to like that.
Got David Bowie, Kate Bush had an album 1980, Stevie Wonder, Hotter Than July.
We had two chances and we passed on Stevie Wonder
Yeah.
because these albums are not peak 70s Stevie
No.
Wonder
I
and
think
he could
Master
do no
Blaster
wrong.
is on Hotter Than July. And that's close to being a great Stevie song, but not
Yeah,
as
it
good
is
as
a
that.
Stevie banger, but when you take it in the context of the album,
Yeah.
it just flops.
And then I'm going to say something nice about the Grateful Dead. Surprise. Their album Blues for Allah. So, despite our many negative sentiments and things we've said about them on the show, I played Franklin's Tower and some of the cover bands I played in back in the day, and I really loved it. Whole song's only two chords going back and forth.
Two
Just a
chords
jammy
in
two chords.
16
Yeah, it's like
minutes.
it's like A and D, just back and forth.
The Red
But
Hot Grateful Dead.
when you get up on stage and you get to play it, and you realize I've got all this freedom to do everything that I want to do as long as I hold these two key notes down. For
Okay.
me, it was fun, and it made me like definitely this song, but explore this album a little further. So I
Oh,
had a lot of fun.
yeah.
And
Bring
then
back
the
to the one.
biggest selling, possibly Scottish band of all time, they were almost like the Beatles for a second, the Bay City Rollers. They were massive. Yep, they're from Edinburgh, if you didn't know that.
I knew that, but I didn't. I guess I kind of lose sight at how big of a band they were at
I
the
think
time.
they sold
They
10 to
were
15 million copies of their
they were red hot for a minute.
for a minute. They were
Yeah.
massive. But they had problems. They had internal problems that wound up
Yeah. So many
tearing that
bands, dude.
down. Yeah.
So many
But
bands.
that's it. So we already announced that we're going to come back with the Aussie show next, and we'll cover Blizzard of Oz since we
Yay.
didn't get to do that
Yeah, it'll
on this
probably be a
because
quick turnaround for that one though.
yeah, we knew better than to try to cover it with everything else that Matt had to say about ACDC.
But now you got to put up with Sandy saying it,
Yeah, that's true. That's
right?
fine. That's fine.
We're gonna have to put like a little stop clock or something down here. Or we need like chess clocks where
Checks locked.
Sandy's got to
Okay,
hit
you're
it,
in.
stop,
You're out.
and I
Yep.
gotta go, and I gotta hit stop, and then he can do it.
That might not be the worst idea.
Yeah.
All right, it's your turn to sign us off.
Hey, everybody. Thank you for tuning into the Jam Yearbook once again. And hey, we had fun recapping September anniversaries. We want to thank you for tuning in, spending your time with us. We know there's plenty of ways you could be spending the last 45 minutes to an hour with us. I never know how long we rant and rave. But thank you again for tuning in. Come back. We'll talk about Ozzy. Then we'll recap October leading into November and December. You know how
And then we'll
calendars
skip
work.
Christmas.
Yeah, no. In December, we're going to recap 2025.
Yeah, that's what we'll do. Yeah, we'll
So we'll
enjoy
do it
that.
that way. So, hey, everybody, thank you for tuning into the Jam Yearbook, and we'll see you back next time. Say goodbye,
Peace,
Jim.
love. Oh, goodbye, Jim. Sorry. Peace, love, and podcast.